My goal is to get together with a few of my colleagues that I really trust and respect to bring in evidence so that people can see that they can fully recover. The more evidence, the more information that you have, the more you have confidence and trust that you can get to the other side dealing with chronic symptoms, right? I dealt with over 75 symptoms plus. It took me 3 years to fully recover. But sometimes you need more proof. And what better way to invite three other people with a similar stories? Some of them are worse, had way more symptoms than me, and they got to the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to list all their symptoms in the description so you can check them out because there's tons. And we'll go over just the gist of maybe 10 each. We'll do like a little recap of their story of how they got ill, symptoms that they dealt with, and some of the things that they tried that didn't work. And then we'll talk about what we did to fully recover, stuff that did work. And I want to be clear that there's many other ways that people can recover. You don't have to do it the way we did. You can do it. There's many other ways you can do it. But this is how we did it. And we're going to give you the evidence to why it worked the way we did it. Right? So stay tuned and please like, share, and subscribe, and share this interview with somebody that might be dealing with chronic symptoms. Right? Our goal is to bring awareness to the mind, body, space, and these approaches so that people can get their lives back and fully recover. So please like, share, and subscribe, and let's get into it. I'd like to welcome Joe, Vanessa, and Whitney to the show. And the reason why we're having this discussion is because I wanted to bring in information and evidence so people can see that they can recover themselves. So the four of us, I would say we're probably hitting over 400 symptoms, maybe more, right? Even like Whitney and Vanessa, you guys got a shit ton of symptoms. Maybe just the two of you got like 300 by yourselves. And Joe, what are you thinking? Like 80?
More. I mean, I don't know. Like I,
Yeah.
I never really counted the amount of symptoms. It was just a lot.
Yeah. I'd
So
say 75 plus for myself, but the
yeah,
only reason why is because I don't know the names for most of the shit. So
yeah,
it could be a lot more for all of us. But anyway,
hmm
I think it's really important to talk about this stuff so people can bring awareness so they can get their lives back and know that they can recover too. That we're not special people, we're not gurus, we're just like everybody else, right? I fucked it up many times. I didn't do it right, and I fully recovered. So that means you can too. So let's talk about
same.
the symptoms that you guys had, the gist of it. I know you guys had a ton. So we'll just list the 10 of the loudest ones. I'm going to leave a list of the symptoms in the description of everybody. And then we'll go around in a circle and then we'll talk about also all the things that you did that didn't work. And then we'll talk about what did work. So let's start with Joe. Give us the gist of your symptoms.
Yeah, most of my stuff that was the most bothersome was like neurological, psychological. So like depersonalization, derealization, anxiety, anhedonia, like that severe depression, that shutdown mode. Vertigo, severe like vertigo, just feeling like I was on a boat like
Yeah.
100% of the time for months. Um, Other neurological complications, vision issues, uh, headaches, terrible migraines, headaches, chronic fatigue, just terrible, debilitating fatigue, memory loss and issues, things like that. Man, joint pain, chronic pain in my muscles, weakness, numbness, tingling. Um, and then I talked about a lot of the psychological stuff. Those were probably like a lot of, oh, and then obviously gut health issues, things that, just not being able to digest food and food sensitivities and just cramping, bloating, pain, nausea, and all of that stuff that lasted and lingered for months and years. So those are, I mean, there were so many other ones, but like
Yeah.
those were my most bothersome for years.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Let's
Yeah.
move it over to Vanessa. Give us the gist. You got, I think, one of the highest amount, but
Yeah.
and also diagnosis, which is difficult to get, and you were able to get those too, a lot of them. Give us the roll down.
Yeah. So, yeah, close to 100 different symptoms that I could name and 50 different diagnoses, like actual diagnoses. And I think the worst of them, say if I say my top 10, was the vestibular or dizziness. So vertigo, I had 8 years of constant,
Mm.
diagnosed with like Meniere's disease and PPD and all that stuff. POTS was a really big one. So I couldn't sit up without losing complete consciousness. And my heart rate was just like in the 200s daily. Chronic daily migraine. I had 25 plus migraines a month, and it was hell on earth. And when I didn't have a migraine, I had another type of headache or tension headache. Um, Gastroparesis, inability to digest food, a lot of GI stuff, chronic fatigue, where it's like you feel like you can't even breathe, like breathing is too much, like that type of fatigue. The brain fog, I couldn't read anything. There was a time where I couldn't really communicate. Like it's like I was trying to get the thought out of my brain, but I couldn't communicate it clearly. Had a lot of allergies, MCAS diagnosis, food intolerances, chemical sensitivities, panic attacks, anxiety, and agoraphobia. Those were huge. Like leaving my house was massive. And I also had something that a lot of people don't talk about is chronic lung stuff.
Mm.
So difficulty breathing, inflammation, chronic bronchitis, like there was always inflammation in my lungs and so many others, but that's like the top ones that were, that I think if I were to list the top 10.
I remember you mentioning, because my daughter had this, pancreatitis. How long did you have that for?
I did. I had chronic pancreatitis for
Mm.
probably 2 years. Like it would
Wow.
flare, go away, flare back up, go away.
Mm.
So that was another one.
Good. We got it. Yeah, good. That's an important one. Okay. Now let's go to Whitney. Give us the roll down.
Okay. Yeah, so a lot of the mental stuff, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, anhedonia, um, yeah, a lot of pain in my body, pelvic pain, interstitial cystitis was one of my diagnoses. Pelvic floor dysfunction was another diagnosis I had. Um, and with that, just a ton of symptoms like in my whole pelvic floor area, urgency, having to urinate, all the feeling of like having a UTI times 10, 24/7.
Mm.
Fibromyalgia, flare-ups of pain in different parts of my body at different times. A lot of post-exertion malaise, like just anytime I would move, it was like I felt like I had the flu for days or weeks after. Chronic fatigue, big time. I went through psych med withdrawal, and that brought on all kinds of stuff as well. I experienced a lot of tremors, a lot of muscle jerking, weird kind of strange uncontrollable movements.
Mm.
um let's see what else. Gosh, there's so many. Akathisia.
Hmm.
um
That's a big one.
that's like an extreme restlessness, kind of out of your mind,
Mm.
agitation. um that was definitely up there in terms of just
Yeah.
like the hardest for me. POTS as well, like Vanessa, with the heart rate stuff just through the roof anytime I'm like upright basically or moving. um yeah, I think that's mainly it. I mean, like deep dark depression, fatigue where it's like just even lifting a fork to eat food felt like climbing Mount Everest,
Mm.
like Vanessa said, like it's just no amount of rest was touching it. It just being a human being alive laying there was exhausting. um I think those are the main ones, Yeah, lots of things in and out, tingling, weird neuropathy type of things. I've had diagnoses for that. Um, Vision stuff. Um, yeah, feeling like I'm in a fun house, vertigo, stuff like that. So not fun house though, really kind of a
Yeah.
scare
Hell
house,
house.
clown house, something. Yeah. And another thing that I experienced a lot that doesn't get named a lot is when I would close my eyes, it was like I was on an acid trip.
Mm.
So I would see and hear like really crazy things when I would close my eyes. Just even if I was awake, closing my eyes,
Hmm.
it was very bizarre. Like it was almost like just hearing, seeing very strange things. So sort of like hallucinations, but I think there's a term for that when it's only when you close your eyes though. Um, and then also I had a lot of severe insomnia. I didn't sleep more than 2 hours for 2 years.
Wow.
Um, which brought a whole other cascade of things, brain fog, stuff like that. Yeah. And
Who
sleep
else?
paralysis.
Who else? Sleep. Okay, insomnia, right? Did you
Yeah.
say
Well,
insomnia?
sleep, yeah, insomnia and then sleep paralysis where I'd wake up and I couldn't move.
Mm.
Um, Stuff like that.
Anybody else deal with phantom sensations? Like you mentioned it with your eyes closed, but what with your eyes open, like water dripping on your skin,
Oh yeah.
hot sensations,
Yeah, I
Oh,
felt
all
used
feeling
the
to
like
have a
time.
Yeah.
sensation that like an
okay,
egg cracked on my head was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
pouring down my body, just like
Exactly.
weird. Or like this half of my head is like gonna fall over,
Yeah.
yeah.
like a strange, weird, like just right here only, like super weird stuff.
And hearing things, seeing things.
Yeah.
Hmm.
hmm
What about sensations on your feet, like that there's something on there or something on your hand or your hand feels numb here, but then like
Yeah.
sensations that don't make sense, or like your mouth feels like it's metallic that you're eating one type of food, but it's actually a different, like they're changing, they're
Hmm.
swapping different
Yeah.
things.
I
Yeah,
used to
lots of
have
weird
like,
sensory stuff.
yeah, I
Yeah.
used to have all sorts of weird sensations in my face or in my head all the
Mhm.
time. Like this half of my jaw would feel numb just for days, if not weeks or months. And then like, yeah, again, that the weird tastes in my mouth. It's so funny when we talk about these symptoms or whatever. Like when they go away, you kind of forget about them. And then when you bring them up,
Mhm.
you're like, oh yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that. I remember having that. It's like something that the brain is funny in that way. And then when when the symptoms come back or you think of like someone mentions them, you're like, you know what? I did have that for a long time. So yeah, I had that too.
Yeah, the sensations. I used to feel like there was bugs crawling on me a lot of the
Yeah,
time,
same.
and I couldn't, no matter how much I like itched, and there was nothing there. I couldn't see it. And there was also, yeah, just like that. You said the sensations in your feet because I was diagnosed with small fiber neuropathy.
Mhm.
So I had the pins, the needles, the pain at
Hmm.
night. It would be like my feet were on fire and I couldn't cool them down, but they weren't on fire. Like just a lot of weird sensations. And then the Joe, like you're describing, like that with migraine, I would get literal paralysis in my face.
Mm,
Like hemiplegic migraine. I was like, is it a
mm,
stroke? Is it migraine? What's going on?
yeah.
So it would be like you
Wow.
couldn't touch, couldn't feel it. It would be all like
Yeah.
numb.
Yeah.
I had a lot of ER visits.
Hmm.
It is what
Yeah.
it is, right? But yeah.
What about did you guys ever have where you felt like you were having a stroke because like your speech started to slur and the right side of the body was slower than the other, and you remember you went
Mhm.
out to lunch, you didn't even know how to get home, and you're like 2 minutes away. Did you guys any feel with any of that?
Yeah. I went to the ER for that a couple times where it was just like, yeah, felt like I was having about to have a stroke or a seizure or something like that. So yeah, it was pretty wild. Very similar sensations.
Vanessa, Whitney also?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I did have seizures, so
Yeah.
that was part of it. But hey, when in doubt, right? Like check it out in a sense. If it's
Yeah.
something new, hey, I'm not gonna try and play a superhero. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
and check
Yeah.
it out. But for me, I ended up seeing a pattern. I was like, oh, okay, I know what this is now after,
Mm.
doctors clear me. I know what this is. This is the, migraine aura. This is what happens before this happens, and so on and so forth. So that helped to uncouple the fear. But those first few times, it's like, what is going on, right? Like
Hmm.
crazy that the brain can create so many symptoms to protect us or, to distract us.
Yeah.
It's so creative. Like it's a
Mm.
wonder. If you think of it that way, you're like, wow, like that's incredible that you could create that experience from like out of nowhere,
And
right?
Yeah.
it knows how to fuck with you, but we don't believe that the brain would fuck with you to get your attention. Like I'd be like, oh, because I thought of something 2 weeks ago, a conversation about something about my body or somebody else is having a hip surgery or whatever. Then it puts it away in the files and it waits so that you don't think that it's connected to the conversation. So you go, it couldn't be that. That's a coincidence. So when it 2 weeks later it happens, it fucks with you, and like it could be old stuff that it brings up to slap you in the face with it. And we at first we're like, no, that can't be. It doesn't do that. It doesn't know me that well, but it's like, yeah, it does. It knows you, knows all the things about you because it's you. But we,
Hmm.
at first we're like, that can't be possible. And then eventually when it happens to you a bunch of times, you're like, wow, it's smarter than me. It has to be. It has to be crafty.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So true.
Have you guys
Um,
ever taken on other people's symptoms?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've been coaching 6 years in the mind body community, and at first I'm like, I never had this. Like, I would have a client who came in and says, I'm allergic to, I don't know, whatever it was, perfume or peanut butter. And then I ate that spoon of peanut butter, and I'm
yeah.
like, oh, fuck, my throat's getting tight. What's happening here? And, it took a while for me to realize that, again, mirror neurons, the brain is so
Mm,
suggestible, so plastic. It's going to grab hold to a story and take it on. And so I had to do work on really separating their story from my story so that I could continue to do this work. But it happens. That's just how, and that's a good thing. We see how plastic the brain can be. If it can grab onto something like that so easily, think about all the incredible things it can grab onto that are positive, healing,
Mm.
yeah.
healthy, right? Like, I know we're going to talk a little bit about visuals, but like that's part of that. That's literally part of the
Yeah.
mechanism where we're creating a new reality because we're choosing what to hold on to, what story to follow.
That's the
It was a
the
full-time job to fucking brainwash myself to health because all the other years I was getting brainwashed to fucking get sick because of the rabbit holes of let's talk about the rabbit holes. Did you guys go down any rabbit holes or
oh my
Facebook groups?
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Let's
for
start with Joe and we'll
years.
go down the list.
Yeah, for years. I just want to mention so that's like the nocebo effect is like the scientific, term for like when that happens, and that's something that I realized too. I'm like, holy hell, like I'm, taking on people's symptoms or creating symptoms of my own when I was really sick. But yeah, so I mean for years, so I was diagnosed with Lyme disease. So I went down all of the Lyme rabbit holes, and that is like when
Mm.
people say Lyme, it's not just like a bacteria or a parasite. People with Lyme, we all go down this path. It's like Lyme, mold, parasites, viruses, MTHFR gene, uh, heavy metals. And the doctors perpetuate this too, as well as patients, because we're all desperate and we want to find answers. So I spent all this time like in Facebook groups, on forums, Googling my symptoms, asking people, do you have this? What did you do for this? How did you heal? And like I spent all this time and my days were just immersed with that for years. I didn't leave my house for years. I basically was bedbound, housebound, and that was like my little lifeline in my community was Lymies and people with Lyme
Lime
disease.
Warrior.
Yeah, Lyme Warrior.
Yes.
And so I did all of that for years, and then there was that shift where I was like, no more. I think like, when I came across some of like Joe Dispenza type work and all of that stuff, I realized basically I was noceboing myself. I was making myself sicker and focusing on the thing that I was trying to overcome. And then when I realized that, it was like a light switched on, and it was like, I have to exit these groups and distance myself from this community and people in it, even some people that were like close friends, because I was just ready to get better. But like that was years in the making. And I think that that is like one of the first steps to actually healing and recovering is letting that go. Like that was one of the first steps for me was just like, I'm
Well, it's
done
hard to
with
let
this.
go. It's hard
Yeah.
to let go because I thought I was a fucking know-it-all with this shit. I
Yeah.
thought I was kind of like, yeah, they don't know. They don't really know. They don't know because it's the biome, right? And then carnivore, and then we gotta infuse it with fucking DIY fecal transplants because I know. And they don't want us to have that, right? And it's the motherfucker gene. And I totally bought that because it's not medical shit. It's the other thing, right? All the
Yeah.
rabbit holes was the shit. But it was
Well,
fucking, I would say 99% was just bullshit.
hmm It's just people grasping at straws. No one knows. Like, we all are looking for answers, and like patients and even doctors. Like doctors
Mhm.
we're just throwing darts at a wall. I'm not saying all doctors are bad, and they're trying to figure it out, and people are wanting answers and they're desperate for answers, and that we almost like need that certainty. Like
Yeah.
this is what it is so that I can do X, Y, and Z and heal. But the problem with that is like that rarely ever happens. I don't, you guys have been in this for a long time as well. I mean, like when I think about that, wanting that certainty and those answers is part of what keeps it going, is what
Yeah.
keeps the
It's
symptoms
not our
active.
fault.
Yeah,
It
it's
makes
not no
sense.
one's
You want to
fault.
heal.
Yeah.
You want to have your life
Yeah.
back. So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
start to investigate, right?
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so innocent. I mean, it's so innocent and it's so human. It's human nature. Like you're trying to resolve it because you're suffering. So then you're searching for relief and you're constantly talking about it and because it's affecting your life so much. So you do put everything on hold because you feel like I can't live my life until I figure this out
Yeah.
because it's causing so many problems. And so
Hmm.
everything else is taking a backseat now because this is number one priority. And so then all of your attention and focus just goes to that, and it's all the research and it's trying this thing and it's doing that protocol and it's like it's becoming your full job every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that tunnel vision too, right? You can't see anything else. When you're in such survival mode and this is your now, it's become your identity, you become blended. You can't even unblend yourself from that. You can't even remember who you were before this. That's how consuming it can be. And the symptoms, they consume you to the point where you can't really,
Hmm.
it's like fighting gravity really to see what else is there. And when you're a part of these groups, right, and you're joining, I was in them, the Facebook group, I was on them
Hmm.
till like 2 a.m. in the night, like
Yeah.
seeking constant reassurance and trying to figure things out. But the more I read everyone else's posts, the more, again, got mirror neuron effect, right? The more I started to see myself in them. And it was all posts like, oh, this is my life. This is how it's always going to be. I have this symptom now and that symptom now. And I'm struggling, and my doctor says that this is just how it's going to be, that I have this many years. Like my doctor literally like told me, "Hey, it's only going to get worse." Right? And
Wow.
Mm.
so you have to really be, I mean, you get to a point where you have to make a choice, right? And say like, well, am I going to take their story or am I going to create a new story and believe? Like, where's the hope rope? And that's where the other communities come into play,
Hmm.
right? Where we find the brain retraining communities and where I know people get pissed off when you're like, hey, don't talk about symptoms. Like, but why? I need to be seen. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a reason why.
Yeah.
Literally, your brain is grasping onto all of those labels. And we need to start to uncouple the charge that's related to that. So we're not talking about it because it doesn't matter whether it's POTS or anxiety or fatigue or whatever. Yeah, but did you have this symptom? It doesn't matter. They're all coming from that same funnel.
Right.
Hmm.
Literally,
So it's
that's
irrelevant.
yeah. So for me, it's like, hey, call it a symptom, call it, a sensation. That's the story here is we need to build safety with the sensation, the emotion, and come out of chronic survival.
Yep.
Let the brain know you're safe so that repair can happen. So it's
Whitney,
wild.
did you want to add anything to that?
Like rabbit holes I went down or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely did all the Facebook groups and the medical system, the testing and the this and the that, and basically putting me under a microscope and analyzing everything. And then when that didn't give me any relief and it just scared the shit out of me even more because I was told the same things. This is
Yeah.
incurable. You have this disease, take away all the good things. No, can't eat these foods. You can't drink coffee. You can't have sex ever again.
Mm.
And it's like said to me almost with a smile on their face too. And it's like, no, that's just how it is, and it's like, what the hell? Like, no, 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 this doesn't make sense. Um, and yeah, just told that there's nothing you can do. And we don't really have great treatment options for this. There's things you can try to do to manage it, but that's kind of it. And then yeah, I did all the physical therapy, and that was really invasive as well. There was just a lot of like discomfort, it made me worse. Never really helped. Maybe temporarily there'd be like a little bit of hope and relief, but then it would just ultimately I'd be worse off. And then, yeah, just all the Facebook groups, all the, those were terrifying because there's all these
Yeah.
people in there because they're just like, I've had this for 25 years, and
Oh,
I lost
yeah.
my job and my husband and I live alone in
The
a
Facebook
shack,
group
and you're
Karens.
like, holy shit,
Yeah.
like you're just like, this is yeah, those are some bad neighborhoods to be in, and I'd hear that and it was like, oh my God, all of a sudden it's like, that's going to be me. Like, I'm going to be this woman who's just like been doing this for 25 years. And, yeah, it's just terrible, and these are people in these groups who are like trying everything. Like they're like getting the fillings in their mouths removed because they think there's metal
Yes.
I
toxicity.
did
They're
that. I did that.
oh my God. Yeah.
Got
I
all of
wanted
the
to.
Trying to
amalgams
do that
removed. Spent.
next, and then it
Yeah.
was like, I went to chiropractors. I went to all these like, there's one kind of holistic doctor that was like telling me that it was my cell phone, that it was the the
EMF.
radiation,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
and
EMF,
you need
yeah.
to like get rid of your cell phone and not have a cell phone. So then I was like all paranoid about my phone all the time. Like there was just so much. It was like everything was everything was a possible cause.
Yeah.
It could be the food, it was the
Pick your poison.
sun, it was it was like I was
Yeah.
afraid of everything after the more I kept going down these rabbit holes because everyone else was afraid of these things. And basically what I saw was everybody was just trying to figure it out. Everybody was trying to figure out what's the cause? What's the cause? Why? If there's got to be something. How did this just come out of nowhere? There's
Yeah.
got to be a reason. It doesn't make sense. So, everybody's trying to figure it out and I'm trying to figure it out and I'm hearing of all the ways everybody's trying to figure out. So then I'm like going down all the million
Yeah.
paths that they're all going down too, because I'm thinking, and some of them would say like, oh, I did paleo and I'm better, but I also have to take, like 45 supplements per day. I got to eat this way. I got to make sure that
Yeah.
I, look left and right. And like it was all these like weird things they
Yeah.
had to do every day just to like be like, I'm at a 4 out of 10 today.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yes.
best you can get. And here's all the things you have to do to just get down to like a 4 or 5. And that's all you can hope for is to get down to a 4 out of 5. But there's like 500 steps you do every day to stay there. And it was like,
It's
where's there
exhausting.
time for anything in your life, And yeah, so I tried all the diets. I think I tried like every diet that's
Same.
possible.
Same.
Even like
Candida.
low oxalate, like things I
Yep.
never even knew about,
Yeah.
low oxalate, alkaline pH levels of my water had to be
Alkaline.
like
Yeah.
9.5 or higher, which was like expensive as fuck, like just trying to like do that all the time. It's like I'm scared of water. Like, yeah, it was insane. And none of it got me better, getting functional medicine just put me even under more microscopes that just are more microscopic than the medical system. And so then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this little tiny thing here that we see, and it was like
Hair analysis. What else?
everybody's trying to find something,
I walked out with more
give an answer.
problems,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
after
You walked out
functional
with more
medicine,
supplements.
more supplements and more
Oh my
problems,
God.
Yeah.
And
Right?
less money.
Definitely more
Yeah.
problems.
and less
Yeah.
money. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I actually
yeah.
developed pancreatitis from the functional medicine protocol.
Wow.
Makes sense.
Legit developed it. I didn't have any of those issues going in.
What did they say when that happened? Where were they like? They stopped seeing you? Were they tapping
Yes.
out?
Literally stopped seeing me.
Wow.
Wouldn't answer the emails, wouldn't respond to
Wow.
anything. And it was their protocol. Like it was too, and again, bring it back to the point. It was too much on an over stressed system. And I
Mhm.
think most people, we're not saying that all of these things are bad across the board. Like what we're seeing is that at the place where you're at with your capacity, with your nervous system state, and you're going into any of these protocols, solutions, and seeing them as the fix and putting all your stock and all your money in them, and you've got intensity and pressure and all of that, and yet you're taking that supplement from a place of fear. Everything is based in fear.
Yep.
If I don't take this, I'm not going to get better. You're putting all your money, all your eggs in one basket. And I think that that's the problem, is that most people, when they're going to the functional medicine world, naturopath, wherever you go, you don't have the capacity to do that insane, stressful protocol. You don't. And what's amazing, and you guys probably see it, I tell my clients, put that aside.
No.
Let's focus on building safety right now. Let's see what happens. And if you want to revisit it again in, a few months'
3
time,
years.
yeah, we'll see. Let's
Sure.
see where you're at, right? And what's cool is that a lot of them don't. They don't
yeah.
even go back to that. Some
Yeah.
will say, hey, you know what? I want to optimize and bring something in. Whatever, cool, you do you. But you need that foundation in at least
Yeah.
some safety and regulation before you approach any of these intensive protocols,
Yeah.
right?
I, I actually couldn't even take a supplement when I relapsed 4 years ago when I got COVID. It was my nervous system was so crashed and destroyed that any time that I took even like something like magnesium, it would just like my body, it was like an explosion went off in my body. And and the only thing I could do was the mind body stuff, was
Mhm.
build safety. And there was kind of like I don't know if you guys, if I ever told you guys this, but I had this like epiphany. I was like taking a walk after seeing like my doctors and trying all these things, and I'd forgotten all the ways that I'd gotten better from Lyme disease. And I was again different protocols, different doctors. And I had this like
Yeah.
voice in my head, God, whatever, spirit, I don't even know. That was like kind of what you're talking about, Vanessa. The energy which you are trying to heal is an energy of fear. It will not work.
Yep.
You cannot do this anymore more. And from that day forward, I just like was like, oh yeah, I remembered this is not the way. Self-love is what you need. Loving your body back to health. And this is where like a lot of there's that shift that a lot of people, even in this space of mind body work, they try to come at it from that energy of fear. I've got to do this or I won't heal. I've got to do this visualization or I won't heal. Or I got to, do this EFT or the somatic practice or I won't heal. And it's the energy in which you do the things that really matters too, that I even had to realize in this journey as well. Like, oh wait, I'm like in this energy of fear versus self-love, like supportive care for my body.
But it's
And that
also a
was,
hard sell.
yeah,
Like if you tell people, like if you're talking about self-love, we're talking about visualizations, EFT,
yeah,
walking. People are like, fuck off. That's not gonna get rid of my fucking Lyme. No, no, no. I need B6 toxicity, mitochondria. That's legit. That
yeah,
sounds real. That sounds complicated, sciency, right? I'm feeling fear that you got a guy in a
yeah,
lab coat with his fucking glasses, right, pointing at shit,
yeah,
and the B6 fucking cells, and then you're gonna latch onto it. Like here, I'll give you
And
an
the
example.
reports, all their
Yeah,
reports, all their things about, oh,
yeah,
but here's your genetic thing here, and here's this thing here,
yeah,
yeah,
and
I'll show you.
yeah,
you know,
People are
like
going
you're,
on rants on Facebook,
yeah.
and this is some of the shit that they're saying.
Yes. I want to talk about something and that is often overlooked and not discussed, especially on this app, and that is vitamin B6. Hi, my name's Nicole. I'm an occupational therapist, and I specialize in treating both EDS and POTS and pelvic floor dysfunction, and I live with those conditions myself. I wanted to talk about B6 because this is something I discovered last year when I was toxic for B6 after taking
Placebo.
a
Sorry.
high
yeah.
dose B
Seriously.
vitamin for MTHFR genetic mutation. So I say it that way because oftentimes we are told we have MTHFR, but really it's a variation at that gene, and it's very common in people who have these conditions. It's also very common in the general population. I think like 40% or more have some variation at the MTHFR gene. But why this is important is because oftentimes people are prescribed methylated.
Anyway,
So
they
there,
go
so we
down
know the story. Yeah.
rabbit holes within the rabbit holes within the rabbit holes, right? It's
Yeah,
just fucking crazy. It's
yeah,
insane. And people are like fucking like this.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
when you tell them, hey, listen, when there's a guy or any of you guys, right? Me sitting in the car with two dogs talking about with me looking like a vagabundo with my fucking, I haven't, fucking shaved in a week, going, no, trust me, buddy. Like it's fucking 75 symptoms. I'm recovered compared to, right? They're not gonna, when I say visualizations and you feel it here, the sensation, you process it here. They're like, what is this guy? I'm not gonna, right? The fear is not gonna buy that. It's gonna be like,
Yeah.
nope, this guy's crazy. Scroll on. The chick with the B6, B6 toxicity. Holy shit. I gotta get into that. I
Well, and
took
that,
B6. I took B6. Oh my God.
well, it
yeah,
sounds so much easier too. It's so much more simple. It's like, again,
Exactly.
outsourcing your fix. Okay, all I have to do is take this supplement and it'll fix all my symptoms and my problems, and that was it. Oh, so much easier than actually having to learn how to allow this, learn how to respond differently, learn how to do all this internal work so that I can actually heal at the root. It's like
Yeah.
that's just conditioning of our whole society. I mean, look at how we have freaking AI now doing shit for us. Like we are lazy. A lot of people just want the quick fix. They want things to be fast, in this modern world. And it's like
Hmm.
what we're teaching is actually truthfully, it's ancient wisdom, it's old science, and there is true science behind this. It's just the design of the human system. And
Yeah.
that has not ever changed. Like
It's
the
hard
way that
work.
the brain
It's
and nerve,
fucking hard
yeah, and
work
it's
because you got
hard
to show
work.
up every day. It's not supposed
Yeah.
to be complicated and sciencey. It's just
Mm.
that you have to show up. That's the catch. That I'll give it to people. I'm like, it took me 3 years, and then I give them that catch, and they're willing to kind of buy it because it was fucking hell. It sucked. It's
Yeah.
hard work, but if you do it every day, you will. It's like drinking a glass of water. You can do it, but it's
Yeah.
right. So it's hard. It's a hard. People think it's woo woo. They throw it under the woo woo fucking umbrella, and then it's like, fuck, I got to get more success stories to really show people.
So for
Yeah.
anyone who's watching this though that has no idea what we're talking about and they are in all those rabbit holes, like can we talk about the science on this, like what
We
actually
should.
worked for us, and like let's debunk a lot of this stuff. Because like as I was listening to that woman, rant on about B6 or whatever, all I could think about was the true hard science behind the placebo and why that is so powerful. Because
Mm.
our brains are so powerful, and that's what's going to get you better is your brain, not a
Yeah.
pill.
Yeah.
So, and if you take a pill like a B6 and you're like, oh my God, my POTS went away, like right away when I took the B6, that was your brain. It wasn't the B6. So like
Yes.
let's go there.
Well, the
Because there
opposite is
is
also true,
science behind
right?
this.
It's also the tipping
Yeah.
point. Like Vanessa said, it could be anything that tips you over, and that thing gets the blame. But it's not that thing. It's because
Hmm.
we're at capacity, we're at 1,000, right? Our survival state's at 1,000. So anything could push you over. That supplement, actually, it's not the supplement, but it was the last thing that pushed you over to make you fuck up, right?
Yeah.
Long
Yeah.
COVID was the last thing
That's what
that
it
pushed you
was for
over.
me. Yeah.
The Lyme, the fucking the relationship that happened, the what you name it, the million different things you name it, pick your poison. It's actually not the mold, not the food, not the Lyme, not the blah 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 blah, fill in the blanks, but it was the last thing to push you over to have your 75 symptoms, and you blame that one thing.
Yep.
That's and it makes
Yeah.
sense.
And in the rabbit holes, that's what everyone's searching for, is the answer of what caused this. So like let's tell
Exactly.
Yeah.
them exactly what caused it. It's that stress threshold. It's that allostatic load, which is basically your stress bucket that has been filling up over time. And this can contain anything. It can be repressed emotions, it can
Hmm.
be past traumas, it can just be relational, it can be job loss, just anything that's stressful in your life. If it's
Yep.
building and building and building in the background, which in this modern fast-paced world that we live in, this is so prominent,
Yeah.
so prominent now. There's so many different pressures. Parenting now is so different than it was in the 80s. Are you kidding me? Like there's technology there, it's like the news, we're consuming so
Yeah.
much content now compared to how we used to. Our brains are really designed to take in like, max maybe 200 people in our village's drama, not the entire world and what's happening and what Susan
Yeah.
had for lunch. And then 2 seconds later, you're seeing a war. And then 5 seconds later, you're seeing a fire. And then 40 seconds later, you're
What
seeing,
about
somebody
narcissists?
talking.
Who
It's,
here's been with a narcissist? I
Mm.
have,
oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
relationship stuff, all these
Relationship
things.
stuff.
This is all like filling up that bucket. And then it gets to a point where your brain and nervous system is like, you're not safe, too much overflows. And when that bucket overflows, it's symptoms. That's what you start getting. You start getting sick. This is why. And it's interesting because like when people first start learning about this, they're like, what? Like, it doesn't make sense to them. Like, what do you mean? Are you saying it's all in my head? And it's like, but then have we all not heard the expression stress kills? I
Yeah.
mean,
Seriously.
stress, and people accept that. Oh yeah, stress kills. But then you
But they
tell
don't
them the
buy it.
stress
They're like,
is
yeah, yeah,
causing
yeah,
all
yeah,
this
yeah.
discomfort. They're like, no, it's not. Like how?
Yeah.
And how could it be an emotional thing how could it be this repressed emotion maybe that's creating all of this? And or how could it be, and it's like, how could the body respond to what's going on in our internal world in this way? And the example that I always like to give right out of the gate is crying. When you feel an emotion, and that's an internal, emotional, psychological experience, freaking water falls out of your eyeballs. that is a physical response to an emotional process happening inside of you. And
Yeah.
that's when I went down all the different rabbit holes. Like I explored everything and I couldn't find the answer. I tried all these supplements, all these different things, all these protocols. And what got me into this work finally was actually, it was a functional medicine doctor. And she said, we've uncovered everything. We've tried, we've turned over every possible stone. The only thing that's left is your emotional world. And I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? My emotional world. I was so insulted, but there was nowhere else for me to look. And then I started learning about mind body medicine. And then it was like, this was it all along. This is exactly what it is.
Would you think that it was good that you went through down all the rabbit holes to finally see this?
I guess. I mean, the hard part about this is the common trajectory for everybody who ends up here, unfortunately, is you are like in the pit of freaking despair. You have done everything, and then you find what you actually really needed, which was this, which was over here. And I wish it was different. I wish that people could find this so much sooner. And I don't know how to solve that challenge because there's so much resistance to this for the reasons we explained. It's like the conditioning, the medical model, the need for a quick fix, the lack of awareness of just how powerful the mind is, all of that kind of stuff like plays into why it takes so long to get here. But my hope is that this can get taught in schools. This can get taught as a preventative healthcare. This is something that starts to get taught the moment you start. So you know that the moment your body starts speaking, that you need to look at what's going on in your life, how you're responding to it, what your thoughts are like, so that you can understand how you have power and you can take that control of your health and stay well instead of ending up where we did with hundreds of symptoms and this is our whole life now. But most people do end up there, and that was my journey. Am I glad that it happened? I mean, it makes sense to me, just
well,
like
now
how
now you, in a way, you've been through it. You've earned the patches because you've done the wrong things. You've tried all the things so that this makes sense. So you fucking know, right? Now
well, now it's like I understand, right? Like the human system. So now I know for the rest of my life, I'm armed with that education, that information, that experience, so that nothing ever becomes chronic and debilitating for me again.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And I think it's changing. I see
it is changing.
Seeing the landscape change, and I think that's because we're sharing from a place that is digestible and easy to understand and relate to. For me, I always explain it as when I first started, I was like, oh, I got sick because I got this parasite, and then everything happened post the parasite. But then obviously when I learned what I learned, I realized I had been in survival my entire life. And when you're in survival, think about the physiology that happens, what takes place on a chemical, physical level when you're in survival mode, right? All of your resources are being used to keep you alive. We're not thinking about the brain's not thinking about keeping you optimally healthy. It's saying, can we get her through this? She needs to survive this trauma, this loss, this injury, this illness, this relationship breakup, this change in her life that she didn't expect. Let's get her through it. And what I see time and time again is we are in survival and we're supposed to come out of it. There should be this space where we come down, where we find safety, discharge, repair. But everyone nowadays, for many of the reasons Whitney mentioned, this fast-paced life, we're always in survival. If you're scrolling on Instagram and you see a post, a reel, something that evokes a sense of like terror, fear in you, guess what? Your body is literally in survival. Your brain is creating the neural chemistry, and those stress chemicals are going through your body. So we never get that chance to pause and really sit in safety. And for me, healing was a byproduct of coming out of chronic survival and into safety. And I think that's why we share what we share. I'm seeing people who aren't at the point where I was, where they're realizing earlier on. I mean, people in my own life, they're watching, family members, friends, they're watching my videos and they're like, I think I've been in survival my whole life. Like, this is why I have this chronic pain in my back. Like now it makes sense. They're not at the point where I was, where I'm bedbound, literally on my deathbed, organs shutting down. They're catching it in time. And so I'm hopeful because I'm seeing it change. I'm seeing the doctors getting
Yeah.
curious. I'm seeing them referring out to programs. Like this is an exciting time. We're so far away and yet closer than ever before to the landscape of healing changing.
I agree. I've seen it so much. I think that this is medicine of the future, and I think that most doctors are going to be, maybe they'll still prescribe some stuff, but they're also going to be prescribing stress management techniques,
Yeah.
programs, and things that help bring the body back into safety, that rewire that subconscious negativity bias that keeps us stuck and sick, and all of these things that are not contributing to health. And I think that that's really coming. Like I see it even, I listen to podcasts still. I love listening to this stuff. It's just reaffirmation of like, oh, this is why. See like people on, podcasts like this Harvard educated neurosurgeon that's on there that's talking about stress management and the mind body connection and how, your body creates all of these symptoms and conditions and how to live better as you heal and do all this stuff. And I see it like over and over and over again. I think it's just about a matter of time until the medical model catches up. And I think some
Western
people,
medicine.
yeah, I think it's going to be a kind of a fight for a little while because
Oh yeah.
as we know, there's not that much money to be made
Yeah.
in this. How like doctors treating people and actually getting them well does not keep them as patients. And then there's not, pharmaceutical companies, that are making all this money off of, symptom management when people are actually healing and getting better. And,
Mhm.
so this is where I think it's like there's this kind of like a little bit of a tug of war. And you get the people like
Yeah.
you saw, that you just had the person talking about that is because it doesn't matter if it's Western medicine or Eastern medicine or holistic treatment, there's still that model right now, that capitalistic model of like, how can I monetize this? It's supplements, it's treatments, it's
How
this
can we keep the
pill.
population sick so we can control
Yeah.
them?
Yeah, exactly. That too. That honestly, that too. I can go on that we can go into a
That's another
conspiracy
fucking
route, but I
yeah.
believe it. But
Get my
I
tinfoil
believe it.
fucking hat. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Well, and there's
I
also
would love if we do a podcast just on that conspiracy of it,
Shit.
but
If YouTube will show it is another story. We'll see.
yeah.
there's also just like it medicine is slow. Medicine
Hmm.
takes a long time. You need a lot of clinical studies, you need a lot of evidence.
Yeah.
And it is starting to happen in the mind body
Hmm.
space.
Yeah.
We did have our first peer reviewed medical journal that published a study, on pain reprocessing therapy, which is essentially, what we're talking about here. It's rewiring your brain out of pain. And it's been proven effective. It's been proven far more effective than any other treatment that's out there for chronic pain.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
because it's the
starting to
root.
happen.
Yeah.
Right. So it's starting to get there, and there are people who are doing more and more of these studies, and there are people who are working even with getting insurance companies on board to actually pay for
Mm.
this treatment, which isn't going to be here's a pill, here's a procedure, here's some kind of metal, yeah, pharmaceutical or anything like that. It's a program. It's
Mm.
you're going to be doing this for the next however many weeks or months, and we're tracking your progress that way. But they have to monetize it, is like Joe said. And so it's shifting into how can we monetize it right now? And so it's like, okay, we got to create the program, we got to have it where insurance will help pay for it. We've got to get the science behind, all these studies as part of this. And then doctors, they're trying to figure that out. And it's just it takes time for medicine, like mainstream medicine, Western medicine, to like adopt these things, but it is slowly like it's going in that direction for sure,
Hopefully.
thankfully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's but then there's like kind of what you guys were saying is like, if people get better
Censorship,
and you empower them
right?
to heal, take their health back into their own hands, like what, what is the model? And then there's the other side of it too, which is how receptive is the public going to be to some of this? Because there are people who do go into the doctor, and if the doctor says, well, I don't have a medication, I don't have a treatment, I have the work that you have to do, there's going to be people who are pissed off and demand, no, you need to give me something that's going to help me right now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. There's going to be people who have a lot of resistance to this work. We come
And
across
you
that
know
all the
what?
time too.
I think that's okay because it
Yeah.
might take a couple of generations to weed them out, and
Yeah.
then you have the new, generations that
Yes.
are like fucking
Yeah.
growing gardens and
Yeah.
growing their own food, and they're fucking
Yeah.
doing yoga like they do in Japan. They're fucking doing yoga
Yeah.
on their fucking
Yeah.
front lawn, right? That's what it takes. It takes time, but we're bringing the
Yeah.
awareness out when we can. This is our purpose to
Yes.
start
Yep.
now and we're the ones that
Shifting
got to deal with
that.
the fucking resistance
Yeah.
with all the backlash, and you're woo
Mm,
woo and you're just a hippie. What are you talking? You can't think yourself better. You can't, right? We got to deal with
yeah.
Well,
that
and it
bullshit.
starts too with our youth, thank God, for those of us as parents that are doing this work too, we're teaching our kids,
Yeah.
I had a relative the other day try to like tell me about this like patch I should wear that's supposed to like, oh, it's going to optimize this and it's going to do that and it's going to like fix this thing and that thing or whatever. And they were really trying to get me
Pectins.
onto
That's
it.
a new thing now. Everybody's talking
Pe
about pectins.
peptides, you
Well,
mean, right?
this
Peptides.
one
Oh,
Yeah.
was
sorry.
Peptides.
but this one
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
something about like it was kind of trying to talk about the mind body connection. It was trying to say like the skin, the neuro, the whatever, the sensory stuff, and it's communicating to the brain back to the, almost like somatic kind of
Yes.
somatic experience, kind of, but it was like this product. And anyway, I had a relative trying to like tell me, oh, you should try this, and I wear it for this, or I wear it to help with mood, or something like that. And I remember I kind of was talking about it out loud. My daughter was nearby and she says, what is this? She was like, oh, that's to stop an emotion. That's not good. And
Oh,
she was like, don't get it. And I was like, oh my God, she's
Yeah.
learned. Like she understands now. So as she grows up, like this is going to be her way of life. And it'll, how she responds to things. And then other people, she can share that with as well. But like, so it's really like our youth,
Hmm.
it's teaching them too, because they're the future. They're going to understand how to handle these things.
all
So,
Exactly.
right. Let's get
Hopefully that
into
catches
what you
on.
guys did. We should start talking about, like, I'll start with Joe. Um,
Yeah.
and then I'll go down the line. What was the handful of things that you did? I had a strict protocol, but
Yeah.
maybe, what did you do to get yourself to the other side that
Hmm.
actually worked compared to all the bullshit that we just talked about that didn't work?
Yeah. The first thing I actually want to say is that for all of us, for anyone watching this, there's in this mind body space, you can also get caught in the wheel of healing, just like you can with sort of the rabbit holes of treatments of pills. And I see that as well. And I myself got caught in that first. So that was the first thing that I did was I there was no programs when I first sort of came across this. I watched The Secret and learned from like Joe Dispenza and psychology textbooks and like about the mind body connection and all that sort of stuff. And back then, when this was around like 2009, 2010, when I started getting into this, I was like coming at it from like, all right, now that I know all of these treatments aren't going to work, let me start meditation. Let me start moving my body. Let me start doing some affirmations and some gratitude practices and all this stuff. And it started to help a little bit. Like it started to shift some things for me in a positive way where it was like I became a little bit more mindful, like mindful of like where my thoughts were, where I was like placing my energy and my attention. However, I also was trying to do this to fix myself and heal myself, and I was still focusing on my symptoms and healing for about a year or so. And then I realized, well, this wasn't kind of working. And this is when I started developing acceptance practices. This is where I talk about like back then there wasn't these programs like DNRS, or maybe there was, but I didn't know about them.
Yeah.
Um, I came across some like psychology textbooks on like acceptance and commitment therapy. And this was like, for me, it was like this light bulb went off. Like I've been so focused on feeling better, fixing my symptoms, even if it is in this better lens of like, all right, well, I'm not focused on pills and treatments, but I'm now meditating and now I have a routine that is better for my overall mental and physical health. I was still intently focused on, I have to get rid of this symptom before I live.
Right.
And that was the problem. That was the problem.
Yep.
And I realized through the lens of acceptance and commitment therapy, which is like where I really believe that is like the what helped me heal was okay, you're doing some of the right things, but you're still fighting against what is right now. You're still
Yep.
like in this lens of I can't move forward until all my symptoms allow me to. And this was when I made like a big shift where I was like, okay, I'm still going to do some of the right things for my body, but I am going to practice acceptance of where I'm at. I'm going to learn to live better with my chronic illness and symptoms. I'm not going to focus on them when I wake up and let me see if I how they're doing today. I'm going to just start moving forward in life in accordance with my values, whether the symptoms are there, whether they're not there, whether they get better, and I'm going to redirect my attention and focus towards living better
Mhm.
with my condition as it was. And so when I made that shift, and I still did some of the right things, like on a on a daily basis. I was like, I had my routine and all that sort of stuff, but I didn't focus on like, okay, now how do I feel? Can I start living? It was just like I'm taking slow, small steps moving forward in life. And this is when I went back to school, one class. That's when I got a part-time job. I started seeing friends, and it was like little by little. And then a year or so later, I was back at school full time, working full time. Symptoms were mostly gone. And then a little bit after that, completely everything gone. And it
Yeah.
was because I was not focused so intently on the symptoms and healing. I was more focused on just like living in accordance with my values in my life. And I still did the right things. I still journaled. I still like meditated. I still, did visualization. I still spoke to myself in a healthy way and, thought about where my attention was being placed from time to time, but I wasn't to fix myself. It was to live better and also to move forward in life, not to
What kind of things did you
micromanage my.
do for moving your body? What were kind of some of the things that you're doing?
First thing I started, like I was bedbound for years. The first thing I just started walking. Like I literally
Like,
just started walking. It was just like, let me go walk to the end of the street, whatever. And then I had a treadmill in my basement at my mom's place when I was living. I would start I'd walk on the treadmill, and then it was just like lightweight training and stretching and yoga. Um, and it
yoga.
was just like
Yes.
little by little. And then eventually it was like uh, skateboarding in front of my house. Like I'm a big skateboarder. I'm still a skateboarder.
Yeah.
And getting into things that brought me joy while also moving, which was like super helpful as well. So those are some of the things
That's interesting.
that
Skateboarding. So doing the things that you love brings in an element of elevating
yeah.
joy, bringing that dose of dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, and you're moving the body. But you're not
Hmm.
doing it in like, oh, I'm moving my body. You're doing it. You're not even noticing it because you're enjoying it. You're trying to land that kick flip, and you're
Hmm.
doing that 1,000 times. The environment that you're in, you're outdoors, right? It's all these things that's keeping the survival brain busy, right? So all these elements, you're doing the pillars or the work, but it's not in a way that you can sort of pinpoint. It's just happening. You're living life. You're sending messages of safety.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the thing. Sometimes we get so caught up in like I love doing a routine. I mean, I still do it to this day, certain things because I like it. It's something that brings me joy and something that I know that is good for me. But yeah, like you don't even need to necessarily have this like routine to have a checklist. It's like, okay, are you just moving forward in accordance with your values, finding joy, doing the right things for your nervous system, for your mental health, your physical health, and all of these things. And like you said, healing doesn't have to be complicated. It's hard because we're going to kind of going against the grain of like the medical model, but also the comfort zone of the
Mm.
chronic illness and where we want to our nervous system wants to kind of keep us. And so it's hard. It's kind of like going against that. It's like, wait, and this is where there's a lot of resistance, especially early on,
Yeah.
that it takes some time to get through.
That's the hard one. Vanessa,
Yeah.
what do you got?
Yeah. So when I obviously first started this in 2018, I believe it was,
Mhm.
all that was out there was DNRS.
Okay.
So it was a brain retraining program, the dynamic neural retraining system. That's where I learned that it was my brain, right? That my brain was the piece that was causing a lot of what I was going through, and that I wasn't too far gone, that I could rewire my brain. So there's this agency for the first time. It's like, what? And but the power was in my hands. So part of the pillars for there obviously was visualization was a big one. I started to visualize, and what this did for me was it gave me a reprieve from the living hell I was in. I
Mm.
was literally in a living hell, right? 100 symptoms, stuck in my bed, just feeling all of that stuff. And what the visualization did for me was it allowed me to experience something different, to say, well, what else is there? And this is where I was able to experience other emotional states other than fear, terror, dread, sadness, and I will say, when I first started, I was using it as an escape. I was trying to get away from my symptoms. I didn't know any better. I'm trying to fix everything. But the visualizations, even in that state, still
Hmm.
were able to provide me with like literally healing chemistry. I would walk out of a visualization and I would feel changed. I would feel somewhat different. And that wasn't immediately, because I
Hmm.
mean, when I first started it, right, there's a learning curve to it. It was hard. I couldn't even visualize at first. It was slowly building it, but once you build that muscle, like it was something I looked forward to. So visualizing was really big, talking to myself in my brain like all the time, and incrementally training, right? I started doing things with my left hand, right? I'm a right-handed person, just to teach my brain that things were changing, to reflect change back to me. I moved furniture around and moved things in my home so that I could prove to my brain I was changing even though nothing was changing.
Mhm.
And this was a process. And then I started to incrementally train, right? Like literally my training was, can I stand up? Like, can I stand up for 10 seconds, right? Like before I have to lay back down again. And then I started visualizing standing up. Then I started to bring in, some movement, right? Really gentle walking, movement, resistance bands, a little bit of yoga at first, like the basic stuff. And I did that. And what I noticed though was, because I was avoiding my emotions, that certain symptoms got louder.
Mm.
So the chronic pain went to like, it got way worse. And I didn't know. I didn't know why. I'm like, wait, I'm dosing all day. I'm elevating my state.
Yeah.
I'm doing all the things that it tells me to do. And
Mm.
that's where I found the TMS world. So,
Right.
Curable, Dr. John Sarno. And that's when I started to see that there was a emotional component to this pain, that I was repressing grief, anger, rage. Like I wasn't angry at all. I was just this person crippled, crying, and I started to tap into that and realize what an incredible, effect, how feeling was actually healing. And
Hmm.
so that got me into that world. That's where I brought in somatic work. I was only here for the beginning of my journey for that first like year and a half. Okay.
Yeah.
That's when I had to connect mind and body.
Yeah.
That's when I brought in the EFT tapping for the stories, the beliefs. I started connecting somatically for the first time in my life, like being present in my body, embodied. What was that? I was trying to escape my body since as far back as I could remember, because I
Mm.
couldn't sit with anything. It didn't
Right.
feel good. I didn't feel safe. And so I started to, yeah, cultivate safety in my body, really gentle somatic practices, nothing crazy. Started exercising, moving again. Grieving was a really big portion of my healing, as well as going to that emotion and processing it and allowing it to be there and sitting with it. And also, one that not many people talk about was just this belief, because I talk a lot about mind, body, and spirit. Like my faith journey, I can't separate from my healing, but believing that God wanted me well and that He was for me, not against me, made all the difference, because I started off feeling like I'm being punished and, God's an angry God, whatever it might be. And so I really combined all of these together and, it was a journey, but these, kind of pieces, the visualization, being noticing the story, the emotions and deeper inner work and the somatic work, they all kind of came together, but not in a way that was forced. And you talk about schedule. I first started off with a very rigid schedule, and it was from a place of survival. Again, rigidity. I was in law enforcement. It was a militant approach. I had to change it. And so I able to adopt a flexible schedule where I anchored these practices throughout my day, where they became a part of my life, not just a practice, where I
Hmm.
weave them in like pockets of peace, pockets of pause, pockets of safety. That's when healing really took off because it became healing as I live and like living as I heal. And weaving that together is something I think was paramount for me, and I see in many others that we are supposed to do it consecutively and literally healing in real time, not just be locked up in our room all day long doing this practice 24/7 and sitting with the sensations 24/7 and like you're gonna stay there for years and years. Just no, it's just like Joe said, bringing in your values, living your life, and weaving it into your day so it
Hmm.
doesn't feel like a practice. For me, now it is just second nature.
Yep.
Same.
It is something that my body just immediately does when I'm stressed. I come back in. I notice a point of contact in my body. I settle, I yawn. I can, it's just there's so many ways to manage the real life stressors because guess what, guys? They're never going to end ever, ever. So life is going to keep happening. And when you are aligned with your practice, it resonates with you, your values, your beliefs, when you can weave it throughout your day and it feels natural, then it just becomes you. This is just who you are. You've transformed. You are different now. You're new. You're a new creation, literally from all of this.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's how it kind of was for me. So
I got a question for you.
yeah.
So you notice how you did you started feeling the emotions a little bit later in your journey because you're doing the brain retraining, you're stabilizing in the beginning. Do you think that it was kind of worked out perfectly that way, or was it like, oh, I wish I was feeling my emotions and allowing right away?
I wasn't allowing at all for the first, like, who knows how long. I had zero capacity to allow. If someone said, go sit in all of it right now, I would have probably gone back to the hospital and maybe died, maybe
Yeah.
died.
Yeah.
My system did not have the capacity for it. I needed reprieve. I
Hmm.
needed I needed to slowly ease into things. And when I started to allow, it was like dipping my toe into the pool of grief, into all of this little dipping into sensation and titrating all of that, right? So that pendulation in, out. That's how we expand, contract. So yeah, that's I couldn't. There was no way I could have. So I think it worked out for me. Like I had to go that step. I do believe that we can learn earlier on to dip your
Right.
toe into it, but you're not gonna like flood your system with all of that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Same thing happened to me. Whitney, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, my, I guess, introduction into this was through the Curable app. So Vanessa, that came later, the pain, but mine started with pain. That was sort of the first kind of symptom. And so I started learning the science through the app and understanding what was going on and I actually got into the emotional stuff earlier, like pretty soon. Um, and it's interesting because I've kind of had two sort of journeys with this. There was like that journey where I think just the capacity was there for me to go into the emotions. I was dealing
Nice.
with one main symptom that was definitely very intense, but it was just one kind of main thing that was going on. I wasn't like completely bedbound flooded with like a million things at once. So my capacity, interestingly enough, was there to start doing some of the emotional work right away. But it was titrated. It was dipping my toe in for 20 minutes a day into expressing myself emotionally and what might be underneath the pain. And I did it daily for months and months, every day, to show my brain it was safe to feel what was there instead of needing to send me this protection. So I was training myself to just perceive emotions as safe, whatever had been subconsciously repressed as this daily practice. But it was also paired with something that was weaving in safety with it. So it was feeling the emotion, exploring the emotion for maybe 20 minutes, and then go through expressive writing, really through journaling. And then afterwards, doing some kind of like self-compassion for 10 minutes or some kind of meditation to just bring in like, this is safe, and just to sort of go into a little bit more of that rest and digest after I was activating all this emotional material. And so that was basically what I paired. And then also on top of that, I was learning about just how to respond to the symptoms and yeah, getting back to living my life and understanding that there's actually nothing wrong with my body, that my body is actually okay, that this was my brain firing the signals. And so I just started learning a lot of different things on just my response. So I'm not talking about symptoms anymore. I'm not going to describe them in ways that are going to communicate more threat back to me because I'm already in survival mode. So if I'm using language like severe, awful, painful, stabbing, burning, that is just telling my survival brain, hell yeah, we're in danger. Let's just keep the symptom on. And so I had to learn to change how I spoke. And that's part of the response. It was coming up with, unique language or just softening or talking about as little as possible. But if I did need to communicate something to a partner or whoever, I was doing it through a different way. I was calling it marshmallows instead of pain, or I was just lightening it up and like making it feel like less threatening. Like, what vocabulary can I use that is like so neutral and safe, but I can still kind of get the point across that something's going on for me or whatever. So that was a big part of it. And then also just talking to my body. Like I literally remember like talking to the part of my body that had the sensation and just saying like, it's fine. It's fine. It's healthy. It's well. There's nothing wrong with this part of my body, even though I feel all this pain right there. It's not actually that part of my body. It's coming from my brain sending that signal there to protect me. And I would just remind myself that like over and over and over, because the symptom would make me want to avoid things. It would make me not want to work out. It would make me not want to be intimate. It would make me not want to do things that in the past I was told would make it worse, or that I did experience it would make it worse. And so I had to really keep drilling it in my mind, like, but it's not my body. So if I'm doing a movement, if I'm doing an activity, if I'm eating a food, it's the programming, it's the conditioned response, it's the pattern now, it's a habit, it's perceiving that thing as the threat. It's not my body that's the threat. So how do I start, sending those messages of safety and starting to do the things I was avoiding, even though it was a little bit scary at first, but I had to slowly, gradually. And then as I kind of did that for a while, like the gradual, like, okay, I'm going to do these activities again that I was avoiding, because avoiding it is all just reconfirming there's a problem with it. If you're teaching your brain that something's dangerous, if you just keep staying away from it. So then it was like, I have to go towards the things I'm avoiding. And I was doing it in little steps because that's what felt the safest, because if I did too much too fast, like I couldn't really respond as well because I would get really overcome with the sensation. So I had to do it in sort of little steps, but then I was building the confidence to it got to where it was like, I'm just going for it. And then I just completely started eating everything I wanted to again. I started doing all activity that I wanted to do again. It was just when I felt ready. And that changes for everybody. Some people learn about this stuff and they're like, I'm ready now. And they just freaking stop avoiding everything. And some of those people get better freaking fast, but it's just how most people, I think, need a little bit of trying, seeing, practicing their response, before they feel like they have that willingness of like, I really understand, I'm okay, and I'm going, and I'm going to respond great, however this goes. But yeah, it was just a lot of that. And
did you do any walking?
And oh yeah, walk, move, work out, started doing, but I started kind of slow. But I just started challenging all those limiting beliefs and all those nocebos that I got from the doctors. Like, oh, you can't eat this. And then I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to eat a ton of that now. Like it was almost like it became like a big, like, F you to the system that told me that I was broken. And it was like, I'm going to, I'm not supposed to do a squat. I'm going to go do 10 squats and I'm going to do that 3 times a day. And it was just this way of building that trust back in myself that, like, I am okay no matter what anyone else told me, and that's what got me. That was a huge part of what got me out of it, was like just that trusting I know how to cure myself. And just because a doctor doesn't have a cure doesn't mean there is no cure. It just means that they don't have the cure. I do, though, like, because I understand my brain and my nervous system and how this all works now. So, like, I have the power, like, I'm empowered now. And so that's what I did. And yeah, but then I also did reach a point when I came off psych meds and went through withdrawal abruptly and the vaccine, there was this sort of other perfect storm that happened where I could not do emotional stuff in the beginning when I was that level of sensitized and dysregulated. Like, for me, it was like very simple, very small, very like, okay, I was bedbound for a while. So it just started with me like walking to the bathroom into my bed, and then it started walking down my hall. Now I'm doing that and back for 3 minutes, now I'm doing it a little longer, and then I'm walking to my mailbox and back, and then I'm walking a little further. And it was just, I really had to kind of build upon that to retrain out of it, that conditioning that was happening with my mind and my body. But the emotional stuff, at that point I was dealing with so much emotional flooding as well. I mean, like, that's when I was developing things like I'd close my eyes and I'm hallucinating, and emotional work, not yet. Like, there was so much coming up, and there was depression and there was suicidal ideation. I mean, it was like, we're not ready to start unpacking what's underneath this, because there was a lot of trauma weaved into what was rising for me. And what I was experiencing felt traumatic. So it was like, not the time right now. And that's where it was just these basic, simple things of walking, learning how to walk again, learning how to move, focusing on my work. I never stopped working. I worked from home. I never stopped running my business, because I knew that it gave me something else to focus on. And I knew that focus was a big part of this. It was like, what is my attention going to? And if it's going to my symptoms and my thoughts, it's just going to keep magnifying them. So I would sit in bed and like feel absolutely otherworldly while I would sit there and do my work and design, because I knew that it was just giving me something else to look at. And so it just was like kind of these basics for me in the beginning when I was in that kind of level of move, eat, work a little bit, rest, watch a show, like small things, but just keep expanding that more and more. Start getting back to your life more and more, like Joe said. Start, hanging out with people again, start doing this thing again, just start slowly getting your life back and moving towards your values. So that was the second kind of learning for me. It was a different approach in a sense. And then I was able to start going into the emotional stuff, because for sure, I mean, I think I believe there's always emotional stuff underneath this.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's there, and you don't have to dig for it. It's not like, oh, I got to go find the emotion that's causing all this. No. It will come when it is ready to come up. And you just have to show your brain it's okay for it to come up. And you do that by starting to be open to feeling your feelings, allowing them to come, not fighting them and pushing them away anytime you feel sadness or anger or grief or anxiety. Like, you learn how to just let it come up. And the more you keep showing it, I'm not fighting you anymore. Guess what? Those bigger ones, they're going to start to come up. And I see that with the clients that I work with, where as soon as I have them get out of the way and stop resisting everything, it's like, oh my God, I have all this rage all of a sudden. And I'm like, yeah, because you taught your brain that it's okay to finally feel it now. Mm-hmm. And that was what was underneath a lot of the shit that you were sick with. So, but now you're prepared to handle it because you've learned how to move out of the way and let it come up.
Did you ever notice that when you had a moment where, the life chaos was a bit of a standstill, that all of a sudden you had symptoms come up?
Yeah, totally. Well, that makes so much sense, because when you're in chaos, you're in survival. there's no
Yeah.
space for it to come up. But as soon as things slow down, it's like, now it's
Mhm.
safe. Now she
Let's
can,
do it.
because I'm not, you're not fighting for, you're not
Anybody else
actually
feel
in
that
the
too?
situation.
Of course.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's like PTSD, right? It's like it's
Yes.
post the stress, right? Post the
Yeah.
trauma, post whatever it was. Now there's actually space for you to feel all of the crap that was happening, that you when you're in survival, you can't feel that yet, So
I
Mhm.
see that
same
a
with this.
lot.
It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
I see it
yeah.
a lot where people will say, it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And
It's
I said,
never
oh,
out of nowhere.
interesting. Let's
Yeah,
backtrack a little bit, just a little bit. Like, what
yeah.
happened that year, like before that,
Hmm.
And they'll be like, oh, well, like my mother-in-law died,
Mhm.
my this was in a car accident, I had a car accident, my house was robbed, like this. And then I'm like, oh, interesting. So, we see this, that you were in complete survival, right? And when you finally were not like going to die and you realize that, your brain's like, and now it
Hmm.
begins, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And when you don't
Totally.
understand that, what happens? It fuels the fire that we get freaked out about the symptoms and we rev
Yeah.
the nervous system up by analyzing, freaking out, going down the
Yeah.
rabbit holes and doing all the things that don't work. So then the symptoms become the tigers in a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I always tell people that it always makes sense. Every symptom, every sensation, every thought, every emotion always makes sense. And people always say it came out of nowhere. The difference with this is like, we're searching for that because we can't see it quite as clearly. Eventually you will. You always do. Like looking back, I start to see it and I'm like, oh my God. Or even if I just take inventory and it's like, okay, when this started developing, what was going on in my life? And then it's
Yep.
like,
Yes.
and you start to see it, but you can't see it as clearly as, oh, I stubbed my toe on the wall, now my toe hurts. Ouch.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, well, there you go. Like, why your toe hurts. You just slammed it on the wall. So you don't need to figure anything out and you move on.
Yeah.
That's the response because you trust why it happened. It makes sense to you. So you don't have to figure anything out. You can let it go. You can allow it and you can trust
Mhm.
your body. But when it's an emotion or a thought, a scary thought or a sensation that's just like in your body somewhere, and you were just sitting there and you didn't slam your toe on the wall, you're like, oh my God, why? It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense. And now I've got to figure this out. That's the
Yes,
trap that we
exactly.
all fall into. But you don't have to figure it out. It always makes sense. Every emotion always makes sense. Even if you're feeling extreme grief and you're like, but nothing happened right now. There's nothing going on. That is coming from somewhere. And
Yeah.
it's just now it's when it's rising for whatever reason your brain and nervous system decided now is the time to feel it. Maybe it's because it got the message that it's safe to finally come out. Maybe it's because you actually had some space. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but it always makes sense. That's what I want people to understand. Like, just anytime you feel something, you start questioning, just know that it makes sense. The difference is you just can't see the wall that your toe got stubbed on. You just don't see the wall, but there are walls. There are things that we
Yep.
run into that create that stress, that
And
create that
eventually you will
emotion.
see them. Then you
And maybe
start
you
Yeah.
hit
seeing.
that wall 4 years ago. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And now
Mhm.
you're feeling it because there was so much suppression, or you were just so much in survival mode. You had kids to take care of, or you just never gave yourself the space. But there was a wall that you hit, you know what I mean? And now you're
Yeah.
feeling the effects of it.
And one thing to add to that is if it's surfacing to heal you, not hurt you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing because we see it showing up as something's really wrong, but I see it as it's surfacing to get your attention because a part of you knows you can sit with this now.
Mhm.
You can be with this now.
Doesn't
Yeah.
mean
Yeah,
it's
and the problem
easy.
is we
It's
fight it. The nature is for people to fight it, and now the
Yeah.
thing that's
yeah.
coming up to be felt, you fight it and shove it right back down.
Yep.
Now that thing's dangerous, and then
Yeah.
that's how
Yep.
we get in the way, essentially, innocently. We
I
don't
was wondering,
realize.
did you do any so you did the walkings, did you do because I want to make sure I cover all the things that you did. So you did some emotional writing, you did the walking. Did you do any visualizations or any things that for
Mhm.
elevating or dancing or anything?
Yeah. When I was at that state where I was not able to do any of the emotional stuff, like I knew I needed to be doing something,
Mhm.
not from a place of fixing, but more just from a place of retraining, the program that my body was, that survival mode. Like I needed to be doing something about that. So yeah, I did visualization for about a year, daily, regularly. I couldn't do it at first, like Vanessa. When I closed my eyes, it was wild. So I had to keep my eyes open. And I couldn't, I I just that creative part of my imagination was like completely inaccessible at first. So I
Same.
had to start very, very small with like when I would go on my little walk, you know, even if it was just to my mailbox and back, I would describe what I was seeing
Yep.
in like a detailed way that was just kind of making it into a visualization. It was just a way for me to use what I could see to kind of,
Like a running commentary type of thing.
yeah,
Yes.
to kind of like really suck all the neutrality and safety out of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it was like the blades of grass have dew on them from the sprinklers and they're sparkly and it reminds me of like a little fairyland. Like it was like
Yes.
that. I was
Yeah.
using like what I could see to describe, and then it would I'd add a little flair of magic to it or something that made it just a little bit more elevating. Because, you know, you could look at a blade of grass with dew on it and be like, so, you know, but I had to make it feel like it was like awe and wondrous, you know,
That
and I used
I want
nature.
to say something about that too, because we didn't talk about this, but like that perfectly illustrates how just being present is healing.
Yeah.
Like when you
Yes.
just are present and
Yeah.
you're describing what you see or doing like orienting practices or grounding practices, like that's some of the most healing stuff. Like I love visualization. I do it all the time too, but like that was, I didn't really talk about that on my journey, but like one of the best things that I did and I still do to this day is I do regular practices of being present, whether it's on a
Me
walk,
too.
whether it's being out in
Yeah.
nature, whether it's honestly, you can do it, sitting and washing the dishes. This is where like some of these like OG doctors, um,
Mindfulness.
yeah,
Eckhart Tolle.
mindfulness, Eckhart Tolle, but even I don't know if you guys ever heard of like John Kabat-Zinn.
Yep.
Yep.
So he was like big on like mindfulness practices for chronic illnesses and chronic pain and stuff like that. And so some of that stuff's been around for a long time. And you describing that, Whitney, just made me realize like we forgot about that, and I forgot about it too. But it's such a powerful practice, and sometimes when you can't do visualization, you can just come back to the present moment and
It's
just be
always there for
present.
you.
Yeah, it's always
Yeah.
there.
It's
Yeah,
a form of
Anchor.
visualization because,
yeah.
like Whitney said, if you're doing a running commentary, right? For those people that have problems doing visualization, just to kind of describe what you're doing that day, what you're seeing, the cardinal on the tree, the blue, right? That's a form of visualization. You can do it.
And
Everybody can
then
Yeah.
do
if
it.
you record it, I would record it on my phone. So I'd record my walk and I'd be like, oh, and then there's these pink flowers and they're so saturated and the light's
Mhm.
hitting them this way. And I would just describe it and say, like, oh, and it reminds me of my grandma, or, you know, like I would just kind of like, and then
Yeah.
I could listen to it later when I'm not on a walk because maybe I am needing to rest or whatever, or I'm going to sleep. And it's like I get to relive that experience over and over because I recorded it for myself. But the more I started doing that in the present, it was all like what Joe said, the present started to heal me enough to where I could now use my imagination and I could do it anywhere and I didn't have to look around me. I could now just active that part of my mind and I could picture other things, other places. I could imagine all kinds of different things.
Mhm.
And then I started noticing like the power of the visualization of like just the things I would visualize started happening.
Yeah.
Um
Manifesting and
my
Yeah,
life, yeah, man, like
yeah.
my best
it's
friend just
fucking
moved
true. This
to live
shit
20
works. When
minutes
you
away from
fucking you
me, and
start
I did so
manifesting,
many. Oh, I did so many visualizations of living a life near my best friend, and she literally just moved across from another state to live 20 minutes from me like a couple weeks ago.
That's
And this was
amazing.
shit that I visualized, years ago, with her. I would just send her my visualizations so she could hear them because I'm like, I want you to picture this life too that we could have like living near each other. And I think it like kind of it manifested it for us both,
yeah.
um
I wanted to
but
add. I want to talk about what visualizations. It's not just doing visualizations for sitting in the dose to bring in safety. For me, it was 7 different things, and I'll probably miss one of them. But for me, I'll try to rhyme them off. For me, it was putting the brain to work, the survival brain to work, so I had something to grab onto, so it wouldn't hijack me all the time when I was, just leaving myself open, sitting on the couch and ruminating. So that was one of the good things. Another good thing was, yeah, the dose, bringing in safety. That's huge. It's undeniable. It's research, right? Another thing was the manifesting, like we're talking about. I started creating my future. That in combination of taking action, it's gonna happen, right? Also being in tune with my higher self, getting the downloads. Did you guys get any fucking downloads doing visualizations?
I,
Constantly. Clarity.
everything that I have come up with has come from me doing some type of meditation or visualization. From the name of my current, like, business, Heel Flip, came to
Yeah.
me when I was doing that. And even like when it was the Healing Dudes, came to me in a visualization. Like, so just like these downloads of like popping in of like, oh, that's a great idea, let me like go to that. So that happened to me so many times. And even
Did you guys
how
notice
I
that?
live here in Florida now.
Yeah.
Yeah, going
Yeah,
through this
I
journey,
for
going through that,
sure.
like thinking that, am I on the right track? I have all these questions. I don't know. Did you find that you started getting downloads, synchronicities telling you you're on the right path, right? The symbolisms. Did you guys see that?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
For sure. I did, at least even for me, visualization literally strengthened like my relationship with God. Because I would see scripture, I would read scripture, and then I would do a visualization on that part of the scripture. And so I would see it come to light in my eyes. I would see it in my mind, sorry, to life. And it felt like I was there, like I was experiencing. I'm seeing Jesus heal. Guess what? He's touching me, I'm healing,
Mm,
and now his hands on me. And so there's this whole process. And even just like Joe said, in the creation of everything, like my membership, like Haven, was literally a download, like
yeah.
showed me literally what it was going to look like. And I swear it was so
Yeah.
clear.
Yep.
And I was like, no, there's no way I can do this. Like, no, 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 I can't. Like, there's no way. But it came. And I'm sure, we all have stories like that. But I'm telling you, when you're able to align, right, and come into that place where you're no longer consumed by the material world,
Mhm.
something spiritual happens.
And it also,
Yeah.
I think it does.
Does.
It not only does manifest it. Like I'm trying to go through all the things that it does. Right. It brings in the safety, the dose. It brings you're getting in tune with your higher self. You're also doing elements of shadow work because it's the ego is going to send you the resistance when you're doing because the gate was closed, right? It was not opening, and then I started moving that muscle like you mentioned, and then you start doing visualizations of the past or the future, and it always cock blocks you. It always sends you these fear
So
emotions
true.
like the past. It would be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
remember when you used to be able to do this, but now you can't? And I'd be like, okay, let's go to the future. I'd be like, oh, you'll never be able to do that. You're gonna be living in the basement with 2.5 cats, single, right, on disability. And I was dealing with a lot of the resistance and the fear and emotion was coming up. So it gave me the opportunity to allow and integrate what was coming up while I was doing the visualizations. So it does
Hmm.
a bunch of things, 7 things or more, probably, things I don't even know about at the same time. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah, you start
Yeah.
seeing where your limiting beliefs are, and you start
Hmm.
seeing like the narratives and the stories, because you go to try to do a visualization and all of a sudden, yeah, this thought comes in of like, that'll never be your life, da da da. And then you're like,
Yeah.
ooh, yeah,
There we go.
that's something right there that I maybe need to do a little bit of work on, is a different
Hmm.
story there. And how can I start, just, just being aware of that story
It's like a
first and
mirror.
foremost, and how
Yeah.
limited it is, and then also that work of understanding that these thoughts are just more survival energy. It's a reflection of the state that I'm in right now. It's not truth, and it gives you practice to not listen to the
Hmm.
thought and believe it, and and just keep going. But the
Keep
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
synchronicities thing, I just want to say real quick, like I feel like I did get some downloads and stuff about, like my business or different things that got me clarity with, but I had a lot of like confirmations of things where it was like, what the hell? Like
Hmm.
where it was, if and this is where it's like I don't share this a lot because people probably like, this sounds like really woo-woo or whatever. But like there's so many examples I have, but one is like I was doing a visualization that I was like a kid jumping in a bouncy house, like having all this fun, like at a birthday party. Like I just was making this up and pretending I'm a kid to like, dose, get more playful, chemistry or going inside of me or whatever. And I was literally facing a window, facing out into my neighborhood. And I had my eyes closed at this point, and I was like pretending I'm bouncing on this thing. And I was like saying, wee, like I'm having so much fun. And I opened my eyes, and this big van drove by my window on my street with the words wee across
Yeah,
it.
Fuck.
that's so wild.
And
I
I was
believe I've had
like,
that.
what is going on right now? But it was so clear to me that it was like the universe was like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, yes, Whitney, like,
Yeah.
you know, and it was like
Yeah.
giving it back to me, like, we're having fun, you're on the right track, you know, and it was
Mhm.
just like, what is this? And there's honestly so many other examples of that happened for me along the way, where it was just like things would come true, or like things that would happen that were like the odds of that, the timing, there's no way that wasn't some kind of energetic alignment or some kind of
Yes.
manifestation that just happened. There's
Yeah.
no way that a van driving by at that moment, one in
A cajillion.
billion chance
Yeah.
that very word on my
Yeah.
street in my neighborhood where I live at that exact
It's
But
moment
then
that
it
magic.
I
starts
opened my
happening
eyes.
again and
Yeah.
again and
Yeah.
again and all the fucking time.
Yes. And
It's
then you're like,
magic.
okay, I
Yeah.
get it now. I
It's
understand
undeniable.
like this thing that I tapped into now, because it's happening over and over and over and over and over now. So it's like you develop a whole different relationship, not just with yourself, but with the world. And you see it differently. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, last topic. I want to slowly wrap this up, but I have a question for you guys. So we're starting to do, right? So I want to be clear. We're taking away the resistance, we're integrating, processing, um, you know, dissolving that energy, right? We're doing the allowing. So check. We're all doing that. We're all doing the walking, the forms of elevating, visualizations, some forms of meditations. What would you say about the people in this mind body space? There's certain few that talk about that. You shouldn't be doing any of these tools that you're doing to stabilize the nervous system because you could be suppressing constantly. So there's some people that are shitting on the fucking visualizations because, well, you shouldn't do that because you're suppressing. So that means well, all the things that we do, the yoga, visualizations, especially, I want to underline that 1,000 fucking times, right? Um, what else is there? The walking, the elevating, right? The tapping, right? We're not doing them to fix. We're introducing a new program, right? We're doing them to process, to allow. Like the tapping's another form of exposure and allowing integration, right? So that also gets the shitty end of the stick a lot. What would you say? And I'm going to start with Joe. When
Yeah.
people put that fear into people's journeys, so they stop doing these tools, right? They're literally sabotaging them because somebody with thinks they have authority in mind body space, right? Because of that, it's literally sabotaging their journey, right? And because of that, they're not going to use these tools anymore, and they're just going to stick to one or two things, like integrating all day, integrating, flooding, right? And usually 9 times out of 8, those people get worse and they don't move forward. That's what I've
Hmm.
seen. I've seen that pattern. So,
Yeah.
what would you say when people start shitting on these tools? What do you think about that?
Yeah. So I think this is a great topic. So here's what I will say. There's a couple things. If you don't make changes, then nothing changes. So if you want to actually change your life, heal, there is behavior change that needs to take place. This is again, this is psychology speak because that's more of what I like studied and more of what I am about, and that's more of what I kind of learned in my journey of healing. So we have to make changes because if we don't make changes, then we'll just go back into that default negativity bias, focusing on symptoms, stressing, fear, worry, and it's hard to get out of that. This is where like developing new healthy routines and changes kind of like helps break that pattern. And we especially need it early on and sometimes for a prolonged period until we get to that level of just like integration back into life, and maybe now we can let some of those behaviors go. So that's
Yeah.
the first thing that I will say about that from like a psychology lens. Obviously I'm not a psychologist. I love it though. I studied it in college and honestly probably should have just went with that career, but I got my degree in graphic design and all that stuff. But um, so that's the first thing I want to say. The other thing I want to say too, it's all of this stuff that we talk about, visualization, EFT, whatever, these tools, these methods, there's tons of scientific proof that they are beneficial from everything from the placebo, nocebo to, I mean, you can Google like peer-reviewed journal on visualization and chronic pain or chronic illness, and you'll get studies that show that this stuff actually works. So that's where like it's now about the energy in which you use it. And this is where I talked about on my journey. At first, it was making changes and then I shifted into that energy of fear of trying to fix myself. And that's where now we get to like take a step back and it's like, okay, the tools and the methods are beneficial, but I'm trying to do it from a lens of force, fear, and stress. And it's like, that's where the shift I think needs to happen more than stop using the tools and methods altogether.
You could do the
Maybe,
same for allowing. Allowing could be used to get rid of the symptoms. You could use it
yeah,
as a weapon. It's no
yeah,
different than anything
yeah.
else.
It's anything like again, it's the some of the diets, it's some of the techniques. You can use them all from that energy of force, fear, and stress, and it's the differentiator between does it work or does it actually prolong and cause more of that stress and that fear response. And it's just a simple check-in with yourself occasionally, like, am I doing this to try to change my state right now and force myself into change because I'm trying to avoid my emotions or symptoms or whatever right now? And if you're doing it in that way, then yes, it is a problem and it can be a problem. But if you do it kind of like, Vanessa and I think Whitney and everyone and you from like a lens of like, you know what, this is good for me. I do this because I care about myself. This is something that I enjoy doing,
Yeah.
something that is something that I know that I'm gonna do to benefit myself. And I'm not gonna look at like, oh, does it help me heal in the moment? But knowing that it's a lifestyle shift that over
Yes.
time will just help me. When you do it from that direction, it actually works. Like as you guys know, we're all talking about how it works. Like
Underline that word. It fucking works. Proof is in
yeah,
the pudding, right? So look
yeah,
at all the fucking success stories that are
yeah,
out there. It
Yeah.
fucking works. It's
yeah,
undeniable. Science,
exactly.
right? Vanessa,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Um, I always say this, there are many pathways to safety.
Mhm.
Okay, so there's many ways to get there, and what works for one person may not for another, but we have these principles that we've all talked about today. Like we share these principles in common. And I think just like Joe said, anything that takes something to the extreme, that's a red flag,
Mhm.
right? So that is survival energy, and anything that
100%.
is prescribed with RX fear, you know what I mean? The fear, that's a
Yeah.
problem. And the way I always tell my clients is, whatever it is that you're going to bring in, because I'm not so black and white. I'm saying, hey, you want to bring in and go for a massage or whatever it might be. I want you to ask yourself a question. Do you see this as the fix? Like this is going to fix you or save you, or do you see it as a support? If it's a support, green light.
Mhm.
How can I support myself as I heal? And for me, support is connected to safety because when we bring in support, think about this like at the simplicity of a friend saying, hey, I'm here for you. Immediately, signal of safety. You feel something settle in your body.
Yeah.
That's the simplicity of support. Why would you deny yourself support? And all these tools, the visualization, the tapping, the somatics, meditation, all of these things are supporting your journey back to safety out of survival. And now, if we take away all these resources, think of, first of all, the loss of that. Now you've got nothing to hang on to.
Mhm.
And maybe for
Yeah.
some, that's their way, right? Maybe for some. But I will say 99.9% of people who are in this community that I see are not at that place where they have the
Mhm.
capacity for that. And so I say, can you support yourself? Bring in compassion. right? And you don't feel bad about seeking support, right? Like, why are we trying to add suffering to the suffering? We're literally all suffering. We're already at that place. Why are you adding fuel to the fire? And the other thing I wanted to mention is too is, and Joe brings this up a lot, but you know, we talk about living as we heal, right? So are these supports now our entire life?
Yeah.
Right? Are we using these to constantly all day where we have no time to actually live? And, you know, that for me is another red flag. And I would ask, like, how can you incorporate living in this? Because life is medicine. And I think some people, when they're in an extreme, and I was there at one point too, I was like, I can't come today because I haven't done my 3 rounds of DNRS. So I'm not going to come to this event that might be healing for me, right? Or I didn't do all of this healing work, or my symptoms are still here and like I'm going to stay home. And that person invited me to a wedding. I'm not going to go because I don't think, you know, I've done this today, or it's not within my capacity. I had to do things outside of my capacity. I was, you know, even just being a parent, I got pushed outside of my capacity, and you know what? That expanded me, and I
Yep.
brought my tools with me, because
Yes.
bringing the tools with me is what brought in safety and weaved that together and created an expansion. If I raw dogged it, you know, went in and did it, right? Like, I probably would have contracted and stayed there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So that's my 2 cents.
Great. Awesome. Whitney, what do you think about that?
Oh man. Well, I'll just say, like, I've been in this space for almost 10 years, both as somebody in recovery, but also somebody who services experts and practitioners and teachers and coaches. And I've personally had this bird's eye view of the entire mind body space landscape. And I will tell you right now, I have seen, like what Vanessa said, there are multiple ways to heal. There are multiple ways to send messages of safety to your brain and your nervous system. I've seen people recover who use tools. I've seen people who recovered who didn't use a lot of tools, and they simply just got back to living their life. I've seen it across, like,
Same.
there's, everybody is unique in their own way. You have to find what works well for you. I will say something I've noticed in terms of people getting better, it's really about dropping the pressure. It's about letting go and giving yourself permission to not do things so perfectly in such a rigid way.
Mhm.
Some of the people that I've had the privilege of learning from and also supporting with my business are people who are encouraging people to use a practice or use a tool with lots of flexibility. There are
Yes.
no rigid protocols here. That didn't get us better. We tried that in other ways.
Yeah.
The way that we got sick was through perfectionism, through pressure, through all of this stress. We got into a stress response that became chronic. You don't get out of that by stressing yourself out of to safety. You don't
So true.
teach a hypervigilant brain that you are safe through a hypervigilant healing protocol. So any program or teacher out there that says you have to have an extremely rigid schedule or protocol or routine that is like, if you don't do it exactly this way, my way, you're not going to get better. That's creating stress. That's
Fear.
creating more stress for somebody who's already under stress and who's sick because of the stress. There has to be some wiggle room. You have to meet people where they're at. You have to be able to let them learn how to be more flexible in their healing journey. If they're going to be really rigid, they're going to put tons of pressure on themselves. And I've just seen that not work. And I've seen the best teachers be ones who are, because people will ask them, well, how much do I have to somatic track? How many times a day? How many minutes? Because they want those steps, because we're in survival. And when we're in survival, we're like, tell me exactly what to do and how, because that's how we're used to operating. That's what got us unwell. But the people who are teaching this really well are saying things like, I'm not going to tell you exactly how many times per day and how many minutes. I'm going to say roughly Just make sure that you're doing some of this and checking in, and don't do it in a hypervigilant way. That's the key. Don't be hypervigilant with it. It's all about outcome independence. It's all about the intention with which you're using the tool in the practice. Like we have just talked about. If you're doing it from a place of, I need to make this go away right now, I need to fix it, I'm fearing it, this is an escape for me to make it go away and get away from it, kind of going to reinforce that you're in danger. But if you're using the practice to love yourself, support yourself, make changes, start to bring in things that are going to feel safe and feel good because you deserve that, because you're a worthy person, totally different energy. And that's, your brain is going to know the difference. So those are the two.
What about the people who add in the fear, like you said, and they will say, if you don't do it like this, you won't recover.
Then they don't understand the damage that that's doing to somebody who's in a survival state. They don't understand that is creating more survival energy, and they don't actually truly understand how to truly take care of somebody in that place.
They're feeding
because
survival.
You need to be giving them safety. And if you're telling them that if you don't do it this exact way and you're going to get worse or you're never going to get better, you're scaring them, and they're already scared. And I find that cruel, and I see it as a huge red flag. And it's not kind. To be honest,
there's a way that you guys can tell too. So we all have sensitive nervous systems. If someone is causing you more of that fear energy, your nervous system is going to tell you.
Or
so
pressure.
That
and hard
pressure.
rules.
Yeah.
Like pressure and hard rules.
And judgment and condemnation
and judgment,
like
right? Totally. That's where it's like, I'm just telling you, these are red flags, that it is like, this is not so much about healing, it's become about power. And that's what we are getting away from with the medical system and big pharma and all of that stuff. And I will just say, I've seen some of that in the mind body space, unfortunately. But most of the people out here teaching are not doing that. And any good practitioner that I've worked with or that I've seen over the last decade are the ones that aren't shitting on other people like that. They're not shitting on other practices. They want you to get well. And if you're doing something and it's supportive for you, they're not going to say stop because that's not how I got better, or that's not my method. They're just going to be glad that you're doing something that is helping you feel safe and it's moving the needle, because they truly care about your recovery.
That's true.
So it really comes down to, do you like doing visualizations? Do you like doing somatic practices? Do you like skateboarding? What are you finding supportive that you enjoy? Only you can know that. And there might be a period of time where nothing brings you joy, but what used to?
That's
your barometer right there. But if you're doing something and you're like, oh my God, I have to journal, or I have to do a somatic practice, or I have to sit and allow, and and then you're like, I'll ask people, like, do you like doing this? And if they're like, no, I hate it, it feels like a chore, it's so much pressure, but I beat myself up if I don't do it, and then there's all these stories around it, and then I feel like I'm not doing it enough, and I'm like, oh, just take it away. Look at all this shit that's coming. Like, this is stressing you out. Can you just go, I don't know, in your garden and do something you like go knit like you used to knit? Awesome. You're going to get more healing out of that than sitting here pressuring yourself, beating yourself up, trying to do this practice the right way. If you can't do that right now, then it's maybe, there needs to be an awareness of that, but maybe also there's other simple things you can do that can be supportive for you,
Well, one of the things that remind me of that is, with me, with what I did and what I teach, is I don't even like saying the word schedule, because a schedule sounds very rigid, very military, right? So for me, it's more routine, and I call it the routine-ish. So yes, every day was Groundhog Day, and I woke up at 7. I go do my visuals from 8 to 10-ish, and then from 11 to 12 I went for a walk. 11 to 12-ish. Right. And it would kind of be there ballpark. And the thing is, it's the routine wasn't I wasn't there to serve the routine was there to serve me. And it
Mm.
seems like people create schedules that they're supposed to serve it and feed it, and right, you at 2 o'clock you got to move your neck this way, and then 2:01 you got to move it this way, and if you don't, then you fucking you go to hell, and you're not gonna fucking heal.
Yeah, it's just good. It's like Vanessa
Yeah.
was saying, it's these extremes, right? And like structure, routine is healthy. Kids thrive in that.
Yep.
Like it's
Mhm.
good. It is a consistent sort of thing that you can rely on. And people talk about this all the time. The holidays come and they get out of their routine and they're like, "What day is it?" And I'm all thrown off, and it's disorienting, and they don't feel as good, and they start feeling like shit. And then they get back. They're like, "I can't wait to get back to like my normal routine." And then it's like, why? Because that does create this sense of safety, structure,
Mhm.
predictability. As humans, there's so much uncertainty we're dealing with, especially with symptoms. We need some predictable things in
Yeah.
our day-to-day life. We need some of that routine and that structure. It's nature. Nature is predictable. That's why it's healing. There's patterns. There's things that like you look, it's very predictable. So, um, but if you end up like taking the extreme of that,
That's
it's
with
like you're
anything.
kind of
Yeah.
right. Too much of anything is not a good thing.
Mhm.
And the goal is to get back to your life, to have some flexibility. If somebody invites you to go to the movies or go to a concert and you're like, oh, it's not part of my schedule, I
Yeah.
can't go. Like,
Oh,
no way, man. Like, if you
Yeah.
feel like you have it in you and you're willing to respond to whatever comes up and allow it to be there and go have some joy and get your life back, then freaking go.
Yeah.
they are
Yeah.
Like,
opportunities.
do not
Yeah.
say,
Opportunities of
oh, I'm sorry,
exposure.
that doesn't work
Yeah.
with my healing schedule. Well, guess what? You just made your healing your whole life again. And
Yeah.
the whole point of
Exactly.
recovery is to get out of that and get your life back.
Yeah.
So anyone that's
Absolutely.
telling you not to do something because it's interfering with your recovery schedule or your healing schedule, I
Yeah.
mean, I think we're on two different pages then, because the whole goal is to get your life back. And if there's opportunities to do that and you want to take those opportunities, but you're not because you're afraid that you fucked up your schedule or you're afraid that you're going to
Yeah.
flood and get worse
Yeah.
and all this shit, that's somebody teaching you more fear.
Yeah.
And
Not,
That's
sometimes it's hard to see, though. It's hard to see that you're running off of fear, right? I've seen it in the mind body space where they talk about, well, if you don't activate your vagus nerve or if you don't dig for trauma, you will never heal. And that fucked me big time.
yeah.
Right? And I it's sometimes it's hard to catch that you're running off of fear and you're latching onto something because you're desperate to heal. You want to get right. So it's first is being aware that it's happening and talking about it and seeing the other people seeing the patterns that, oh shit, it's happening here, here, and here. Okay. Um, and that this is bringing me into a survival state, and I'm going to be stuck. I'm actually going to go backwards. I'm going to get worse. I'm going to flood. I'm going to get sicker,
yeah.
if that's a word.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was just saying, like too. It's just like when you're sick and your nervous system's so activated or whatever, it is more hypersensitive, and you can kind of feel like this is bad vibes. This is not good energy right now, you know? And that's at least how I was. Like, and I still am that to this day. And it's
Yeah.
about like, honoring needs, what your needs are, honoring and doing what feels right. And sometimes that doesn't always make you feel good in the moment. That's where kind of like we were talking about, like getting back to life and living can bring up some of those sensations that can feel uncomfortable, but it's moving you in the right direction, right? So there's some of that people fear, but then there's those things when, someone's bringing that fear onto you, or, even if you like are around someone and they're just negative, 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 you can feel it in your nervous system. Or even if you're just thinking constantly negative, negative, negative all day, you feel that in your nervous system. It's like, dude, this is not helpful, So that's where it's like,
You got to listen to your
sometimes,
that voice. You have to
yeah,
listen to that inner
yeah,
Yes.
voice.
yeah,
But a lot of people they suppress it
yeah. Well, that's part of
because
the healing is becoming your own best healer, is get to be empowered, like we've all talked about, where
yeah,
it's not about, hey, let me just listen and have someone be my master and tell me exactly what to do.
yeah,
Yes.
It's yes, you can borrow some of what, again, everything that we've talked here. We all have our different sort of flavors and alignments or whatever, but a lot of the stuff is rooted in the same, a lot of the similar principles. It's building that safety, joy, getting back to life, living, aligning with your values, doing things that kind of support your healing. But it all is an individual journey, you know, and that's where I think a lot of people are looking for someone to tell them exactly what to do. And that for me, like I would never I'm kind of like, you know, I grew up as a skateboarder. I don't want anyone to tell me what to do. Like I want to kind of figure it out on my own. But other people like want people to tell them what to do. And I'm like, dude, like people can give you suggestions and like tell you
Yes.
what worked for them, but it's
Light
also
guidance.
it's an
Yes.
individual journey. Like it really is. Like, and we all kind of figure it out on our own
Well,
through
that's the thing.
exploration, just
Sorry to interrupt you, but
curiosity.
you
Yeah.
were saying this already. You have to start becoming your own guide. In the beginning,
Yeah.
yes, there are guardrails. We need them
Yeah.
sometimes in the beginning. But eventually, the goal is you have to become your own guide because you're the one that's going to get you to the finish line. Nobody else on this fucking planet.
Yeah.
So you have to start walking the walk and talking your own talk and thinking your own thoughts and tweaking, adjusting, changing things around that gets you to the other side. And you know that when you get the synchronicities and you're going through this
Hmm.
journey, you show up every day, you become your own guide and you start to detach from whatever you were starting off with. That's what worked for me anyway.
Hmm. Same.
Well,
Same.
but to wrap this up, I wanted to see if you guys can give some form of advice to people that are first watching this, that are dealing with all these symptoms. What advice would you give somebody that's just starting out and going fucking crazy? Joe, we'll start with you and then we'll go out
Yeah.
to Vanessa
I
and
would
then
just
Whitney.
say, if you're going down all those rabbit holes, you know, of the different treatments and maybe you've even gone out of that, but you kind of now are going down this path of mind body healing. Ask yourself, is this causing me more fear? Is this causing me more stress? Or does this feel more aligned? Like check in with yourself. Does this energetic, like, does this feel like this is supporting my healing? Because this is where you can kind of check in with yourself. I think it is important to check in. Like, again, Googling symptoms. Is this helping you heal? It might help in the moment you to get a little bit of that reprieve, but really we kind of know this is still tying me to my chronic illness and producing more of that stress and that prolonged fear and all that sort of stuff. So that's like where I would lead people to go is like, you know, this is a journey of individual sort of exploration. What is going to help in you heal and build that safety and that self-love within. And only you can know. Only really you can know. So I always want to tell people, like we always talked about, or we talked about on this journey, is like the energy in which you go about your healing. Is it through the lens of fear? Or is it through the lens of self-care, self-acceptance, self-love? And that's the most important thing. Because even when it comes to like, let's just say again, I'm not telling anyone to not seek medical care. Sometimes medical care can be needed
Yeah.
if there is something structurally wrong or whatever, you know, but you know, doing these things from that lens of like self-care, self-love is important. You know, you can seek medical care from that space too. And there's nothing wrong with like getting things checked out, like, hey, but then there often becomes an obsessive thing that we all have gone through where it's like, it's not this, maybe it's something else I'm missing. And that's just hypervigilance, fear, stress, worry. And the same thing can trickle over into the mind body space. So just be mindful of that as well. You know, is it causing you more fear, stress, worry, or is it building that safety? That's the thing that I
I
would
think
say.
that's a really big point. I don't think enough people are talking about that. Listen to
Yeah,
yourself and ask yourself, are you doing this thing out of fear? That's
yeah,
huge.
yeah,
Awesome. Thank you. Vanessa.
Yeah. My message to you, if you're watching, is you're not broken. You're not too far gone. I think every single one of us here believe that. And yet we're here telling you this works. It's not snake oil.
Right.
And just that understanding, you're not broken. You've just been in survival for too long. And the antidote is safety. And there are so many pathways to safety. And if there's someone out there trying to sell you that it's only this way and it needs to be done this way when the moon is at, this level and the birds are chirping, then I want to question that, because that right there is selling fear, like Joe said. And something that I always ask my clients, it's in, part of my program, I always ask them to pause before they do anything, before they make a decision, even in the midst of something, and ask themselves, is this feeding survival or cultivating safety? And before you make any decision on any program, wherever you go, we just want you guys better, well. That again, just asking that simple question and pausing and noticing in your body doesn't lie. How does this feel when I'm listening to this person or reading this information? You'll get a pretty clear answer from that. And again, just extending this hope rope. None of us believed that healing was possible for us. And, initially, and we maybe started off with 1% belief, let that be enough for right now.
Mm.
Because healing is more than possible, and we're living proof. We're living proof, not only of healing, but of complete transformation, because none of us are the same person we were going into this at all. So
So
that's,
true.
yeah, just something I wanted to share.
Love it. All right, Whitney, let's close it off with you. What do you got?
I think I just want to make this like as simple as possible, because healing isn't easy to do, but it actually is simple.
Thank you.
You're in a
Yeah.
state of survival. You get symptoms as a result of that. We start treating the symptoms, emotions, thoughts, sensations as a threat, and then we can't get out of survival. A lot for practically everybody, I truly believe this, with chronic symptoms, it's a preoccupation problem. And it's probably been going on for a very long time. We've been in that state of survival for a very long time, and it's reached this level now. And then we start treating the effects of being at this level of a survival state as a problem too. And we fight that. And that's what makes it chronic. So all you have to do truly to get better is learn how to not treat it like it is a problem and it's a threat, even though it feels like it is.
Yeah.
That's really the way out, is the messages of safety. And that comes through your behaviors, your language, and just how you're responding to what you're experiencing. If you're treating what you're experiencing like it's a problem, and you're going down the rabbit holes and you're trying to fix, and you're using tools to fix, and you're avoiding everything, all of these things are just more fighting, more resistance, and teaching the brain and system that you're right, we are in danger. We're going to stay in this heightened state of survival. So all that we are all teaching here, that we are all aligned on, is how to communicate safety. And it is, at the end of the day, pretty simple. Yes, this work
Yeah.
can go deep, but it's really not that deep. It doesn't have to go that deep to where there's like all these really long-winded explanations and analytical freaking
Yeah.
2-hour conversations about what exactly is happening at this level of the freaking nervous system and what this means, and all the different, shadow, and all the different, doors or gates or whatever. You don't need that information to get better. If anything, it's just going to keep you in your head and out of your life and out of your behaviors and your responses. That's where the work really is. And we've all done it, and you can do it too. It's, and there's so much support out here of people who are not going to add more stress to you
Yeah.
to get better, and who are just going to guide you and show you. And you really do have to be the CEO of your own journey. You have to see what is feeling safer for me, what is feeling aligned. I love what Vanessa said about pausing. If something feels like it's adding more stress, more pressure, maybe that's not the approach. If you're using words and language that are, think about how that is making you feel. If it's making you feel more scared, more stressed, to call your symptoms severe, probably is causing you to, even if it feels true, just think about how those words land in your body. It's the same when you're working with somebody. It's the same when you're doing a program or it's guiding you. If it's giving you hope, if it's helping you feel like safe and it's helping you feel like you have permission to be fully you and be human and not be perfect and just come at this from a place of love. I think it's all about how it's taught. It's all about how it's taught.
Hmm.
So, and I know I can say for everybody who is on this video right now, it's taught with compassion, love, flexibility, knowledge, education. And I've spoken with all of you, even just throughout my own struggles, my own journey, and not one of you has ever made me feel more broken or made me feel like I have to do something a certain way. It's always met me where I'm at, and there's always been just support and love. And that's what you need from a good guide, So
So true.
Yeah.
Love it.
Likewise, I just want to echo that. You guys are all good people. You guys are all
Honestly,
good peeps.
you guys are the only guys I pretty much talk to. I don't have fucking friends anymore. I don't talk to my friends. I love my dogs, my wife, my family. And you guys are the only ones, right? You guys are you guys live in the opposite parts of the world, except for Vanessa. She lives like an hour away, but
Oh
aside
wow,
from
you
that,
guys need to hang.
I know we do. We do. No, I agree. You guys are, again, we align for a reason. We have
Yeah,
the same intention. We want
yeah,
people well.
yeah.
And that's the simplicity of it.
Mm-hmm.
I do
Yeah.
have a question for the audience. It's kind of a surprise question, but if anybody would think it's a good idea that we create our own channel of the four of us together, put it in the comment section and let us know. I'm going to wrap it up, and please like, share, and subscribe. Everybody's links and descriptions of the symptoms will be in the description box. So you guys can please add everybody to Instagram and on YouTube to help us grow so we can get that to help people get their lives back. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Hi.
Thanks.